Robert Whittaker is back in the KO column. We had a massive fraud check tonight with Sergei Pavlovich. The end of Johnny Walker's career. It's possible. Kelvin Gastelum stocked up on some extra calories during his training camp, which gave him good energy and insulation for that third round. Kelvin had a lot of calories in his system that D-Rod didn't have. And we saw a robbery tonight as well. Amazing card that we just had in Saudi Arabia. The most pathetic live reaction I've ever seen from a crowd to a big KO. I mean, there was literally no energy in the building outside of Turkey Ali's shadow boxing moments when they would put him on camera. But Saudi Arabia had no energy when Robert Whittaker got the KO. I didn't see the KO live. My Xbox cut off, and I used that to watch, the fight on ESPN, and it cut off like 2 seconds before the KO. And I had the whole chat going berserk, and I was thinking, they're just fucking with me. But wait a second, are they really fucking with me? There's literally hundreds of people typing KO at the same time. I don't think they'd be doing it during a big fight like this. I couldn't believe it. As soon as I got my stream back on, Robert Whittaker was beating his chest, and I had to rewatch it. I'll show you guys my reaction to the KO, but let's get into this. This is my recap of this full card. Amazing card. I'm so happy that Robert Whittaker's back in the KO column. Timestamps are in the description if you want to hear a take of mine on a particular one of these fights. Let's get into the main event since that's on my mind. I'm going to show you guys my reaction to it right now. And, dude, that combo, dude, I'm telling you, Turkey's... But again, Whittaker's a little bit slow to... Whoa! Hey! Hey! Yo, what the fuck? The fight just went off. I just missed something. The fight shut off. Fuck. Early? No. Stop. Stop. Stop, dude. Whittaker? Whittaker KO'd him! No, he didn't. Come on! Please. Please not be over. Yo! Whittaker knocked him out! I didn't see it live. Okay, I'm watching. I didn't see it live. Holy shit, Whittaker KO'd him? My console cut off. Apparently, Whittaker knocked him out. What was it? Dude, that's hype. I still haven't seen it. I still haven't watched it. I'm waiting for it. I got it back on. Guys, if you're just tuning in, boom, boom, boom. Boom! Yeah! 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 Let's go! Yeah! Oh yeah! Woo! Let's go! Yeah! Yeah! Nice! Whittaker's back in the win column with a KO. First KO since 2017. I guess it was Ikram that's doing the Irish jig. Seeing Robert Whittaker get a KO in 2024 is honestly surreal. I mean, I couldn't believe my eyes when I turned my stream back on and I saw Whittaker talking to his coaches and jumping around the octagon before I even saw the finishing sequence. It didn't seem real. You know what I mean? But it was that easy. It was that easy for Robert Whittaker tonight. And yet again, we see another middleweight fraud check. Fair enough, this was on short notice. It was unlike Abu Smagomedov and Joe Pyfer having full training camps to fight guys that were highly ranked. But Ikram, it's not like he was coming off of the couch, right? Yeah, you could say his chin may have suffered because he had to parlay his weight cut from last week into this week, and that could be pretty brutal. But still, Ikram's been preparing to fight during this time period. Like, he was supposed to be fighting last weekend. He's still in shape. And Robert Whittaker's shot selection was beautiful. So the KO is not just because Ikram's chin suffered. And also, if you make that argument, you could also say, well, Whittaker has pillow hands, so I guess it's even, right? Robert Whittaker, pillow hands, is back in the KO column. He was KOing people left and right back in the day, but this was much needed. And it wasn't even an early stoppage. It was like a legit nasty KO up against the fence. Brutal uppercut. The same uppercut that Khamzat Chimaev hit him with. And yeah, I mean, Whittaker just styled on him. Showed levels, had a speed advantage. And Ikram didn't even shoot a single takedown. It would have been nice to see Ikram grapple a little bit just because I wanted to see Whittaker showcase his takedown defense and show us some scrambles, but, it is what it is. I'm happy with the Whittaker KO. I got the main event right. Whittaker's on a 2-fight win streak. And the only fight to make next, if it's not for a belt, because I know that everyone's going to be saying, oh, Strickland deserves it. Strickland deserves the title shot next, because when he lost the belt, it was one of the closest fights of all time. You know what I mean? He still has an argument to be the best middleweight in the world. But it's not like he's defended a belt 10 times and is the most deserving fighter that there's ever been. I think that it's not crazy to make Robert Whittaker versus Sean Strickland for a clear-cut number one contenders fight, where we know that's the number one contenders fight. You could put it on a big card as a co-main event. You could make it a 5-rounder. And if you don't do that, then I think you reserve a title fight for Robert Whittaker. Have Sean Strickland fight for it next, fight the winner of DDP versus Izzy. And then whoever wins the Sean Strickland title fight should fight Robert Whittaker. I've always wanted to see Strickland and Whittaker fight, though. That's like a highly anticipated matchup of mine that we've never seen get booked. And that seems to be like the last amazing matchup that hasn't been booked. There's all these rematches, DDP versus Whittaker, DDP versus Strickland, Strickland versus Adesanya, Adesanya versus Whittaker. I want to see Strickland versus Whittaker in a 5-round fight in the fall, or, the early fall, maybe late summer. Maybe you could make it the co-main event to UFC 305. That's also something you could do. You could have all of those middleweights on the same stage at a press conference. That would create quite the freaking frenzy. You know what I mean? You could do that. Either way, Robert Whittaker's right there again. And I think he could beat Sean Strickland. I honestly do. All right? Yes, getting the KO tonight against Ikram Aliskerov plays a big factor in me thinking he could beat Strickland, because seeing Whittaker with some pop in his hands kind of reminds me that, yes, it's possible for him to get a finish in this world. And the reason why I think Whittaker also could just outstrike Sean Strickland is because, yes, Strickland has good defense. Yes, he's 10 times harder to hit than Ikram, but at the same time, Robert Whittaker is difficult to prepare for because he's so fast. Yes, the karate blitz is coming, but he's really fast with it, and it's hard to actually know when it's going to happen. And his boxing is improving a lot. Whittaker's boxing ever since the Adesanya rematch, even when it looked improved in that fight, has been getting better. And I do think that Whittaker is one of the few guys that's fast enough to be able to land headshots on Sean Strickland. The kicks, he might not be so successful, but I think he could actually land cleanly on Sean Strickland. I don't know if he'd be able to put a ton of pressure on him, but if he can mix in the takedowns, that's a winnable fight. It definitely is. And for Sean Strickland, it's a winnable fight. But for Whittaker, you don't even have to worry about getting KO'd. I don't think Sean Strickland KOs Robert Whittaker. He's got pillow hands, and I think Whittaker would not be afraid to get into the pocket and test out his boxing. I could see Whittaker getting into the pocket and hitting Sean Strickland with uppercuts, hitting him with hooks. That'd be a great fight. I want to see it. If it doesn't happen, then I think the UFC should reserve a title fight for Robert Whittaker after Sean Strickland. Someone was mentioning Khamzat Chimaev. No. Okay, it's not Khamzat's fault that he got sick, but no, he missed the opportunity to fight Robert Whittaker. We're not going to punish Whittaker and have him fight Khamzat in Abu Dhabi. Fuck that. Title shot or a number one contenders fight against another big name in Sean Strickland. Those are the only two options. And for Ikram, back to the apex, unfortunately. Back to the prelim fights. His chin, maybe not the best in the world if you're getting KO'd by Robert Whittaker. Either way, bit of a fraud check there. But let's get on to Alexander Volkov versus Sergei Pavlovich. Massive fraud check. This was the one that killed off his aura completely. Because the thing is, getting knocked out by Tom Aspinall, it was still a bad moment for Sergei Pavlovich when it came to his boogeyman status, right? He was the KO guy that was knocking everyone out. The way that Aspinall was going to beat him was to take him down and twist him into a pretzel or beat him up on the ground. But it wasn't just a big, nasty KO. That wasn't the way he was going to beat him, but he did. So it's like a big fish eating a scary fish, you know, and the bigger fish comes up and eats them, loses a little bit of aura, minus 500 aura. Sergei Pavlovich in a 3-rounder against Volkov, who isn't known for his power, okay? A little bit slow. Listen, compared to the average heavyweight blob, Volkov is a technical maestro. He's got crazy output. He's a high-level striker. He's got good movement compared to the average heavyweight. Volkov is elite. He's always been elite. He's been one of the truly good ones. But I still thought Pavlovich, 3-rounder, he's got a good chin, as he proved in this fight. 3 rounds is a lot of time to be able to land a big old shot on the chin of Alexander Volkov, who's very hittable early because, well, not so hittable in this fight. Not so hittable in this fight. But my point is, 84-inch reach, craziest reach in this division right now. Tons of power in his hands. And this ain't gone. This guy's not moving around like a cat. He's not light on his feet like a bantamweight. He's not that agile. Volkov's, he's sort of plodding around the octagon. He's firing off kicks. He uses the kicks to keep you at bay. But if you get on the inside of him, you can land big shots on the guy. You could land some nasty uppercuts. You can land hooks. Not tonight. Pavlovich went in there with a bit of a gun-shy approach. I think we can all admit that. I think he looked a little bit patient, overly patient. Definitely a little bit gun-shy. I'm guessing that's because he just got knocked out. That's natural. But he had a lot of time to recover from that KO. And you would think, okay, he's going to be able to adjust. He's going to be able to go jab for jab since he has the reach. Couldn't even go jab for jab. Had the shallowest tool bag you could expect out of a top 5 guy. You think he shot a takedown in the 3rd round? Man, that was really the nail in the coffin when he shot that takedown. That was really the sign of defeat, mental defeat for Pavlovich. And he couldn't rock Volkov. I've always been saying I think his power is a tiny bit overrated, but I expected him at some point in the 1st round to just let it go and say, screw technique. Let's throw that to the wayside. Let's start big slugging. We didn't get a single big slugging moment. A big part of that is because Volkov did a really good job of circling the entire fight. He was not on his bike running, but he was moving the whole fight. He had good footwork. He was striking while he was moving. He was doing a really good job at mixing it up to the legs, mixing it up to the body, but his jab looked phenomenal. It was the jab that was really working well for Volkov. And I guess he had a really good ability to kind of parry the punches with his arms and catch Pavlovich coming in with a stiff jab. And yeah, he doesn't have the most power, but still has enough thud. 265 pounds is Volkov. That's enough thud to keep you in your tracks. And you know how it is. Sometimes you're sparring someone that just keeps tagging you with the jab. They're busting you up a little bit. And even though you're not going to get KO'd, it's just a little bit discouraging. And I think that Pavlovich, as the fight went on, sort of just fell into that, okay, let's just keep trying to do the same shit. Because if I don't, I'm getting cracked with a jab. If I actually try to let my hands go for real, because I was saying, Pavlovich has to go and get stupid with it in the later rounds. I was saying he's got to get done with it. He needs to freaking go crazy because it's the 3rd round and he's getting his ass kicked. He's getting his nose bloodied up. People were saying this fight was boring. It was not boring at all. And I was salty watching Pavlovich lose because I picked him. But Volkov was tuning him up with good output and hard shots. And it was an impressive victory. It's the best victory of his whole career since it's a very highly ranked opponent that's known for being a KO guy. It's an upset as well. I was saying Pavlovich has to go in for the kill, but I think that because he was getting tuned up, because he was getting his nose busted up with a jab, and he was getting stiffened up every time he tried to close the distance, I just think that he didn't want to take that risk of getting knocked out. There was one moment where he did get stunned in the 2nd round, and I think that maybe after that he was like, yeah, I don't know if I really want to risk getting KO'd, but he needed to. I'm sure he tried a couple of big blitzes. I'm sure he tried a couple of big, ugly blitzes, but still, Volkov did a really good job of getting out of the way after Pavlovich would let go his 2nd punch, and he wasn't in a position for Pavlovich to set his feet and to continue to throw. Pavlovich had to completely reset when Volkov would deal with the first 2 punches because he would already be out of the way. So, beautiful performance from Alexander Volkov. And I guess this just goes to show that if you are a long, rangy striker with good footwork in the top 10 at heavyweight, you beat Sergei Pavlovich. I think Gane would beat him, okay? Aspinall definitely beats him. I mean, we already saw that, but I think this even further proves that Aspinall, with good footwork, would normally beat Pavlovich. Pavlovich is a bit of a plotter. Doesn't have the best fight IQ, doesn't have the best ability to adjust, doesn't have the deepest tool bag. And if he doesn't have a blob that's level-headed with him or shorter than him to kind of just power through with hooks at the hip, then I think that it's going to be a really tough fight for him. Make no mistake, Pavlovich ain't a bum. He's still elite for heavyweight. He's still the 5th best heavyweight on the planet, or the 4th best heavyweight on the planet. It's just that Volkov, underrated, and I underrated him, but I thought he was going to get KO'd early because he does not seem like the fastest guy, and I thought Pavlovich, with his 84-inch reach, crazy power, would be able to do a little bit better than some of these other guys like Rosenstrike. He did a little bit better, but not that much better. Plottier than I thought. Man, either way, beautiful win for Volkov. I want to see him fight for the title next. So let's do Volkov versus the winner of Curtis Blades and Tom Aspinall. I don't think he wins the Tom Aspinall fight, but maybe he could beat Curtis Blades. But I don't think that's going to be the fight for him because I think Curtis Blades is going to get beat by Aspinall too. You could say Gane versus Volkov too. Some people were saying that, but no. You do not reward Gane for ducking a fight with a number one contenders fight against Volkov. Fuck that. And you also don't give Gane Sergei Pavlovich because Pavlovich got ducked by Gane. And now Gane's going to look at this performance and he's going to say to himself, wow, actually, that is a good fight for me. He's super plotty. If Volkov did that to him, then I can do that to him. No, we're not doing that. Gane cannot be rewarded with a Pavlovich fight when he's licking his chops and looking at it as an easy matchup right now. Gane has decided to take himself out of the top 5 equation and to reserve himself for fat blobs like Marcin Tybura. I say let's continue with that. Gane, if you want to fight the blobs, fight Marcin Tybura, fight him in Paris, beat him up. It's just that now the UFC shouldn't give him the title fight after. That's the difference with Gane. Fight your blobs, but we're not going to give you a title shot. And if you fight a blob and win, then we'll give you a Pavlovich fight. Because now he's going to want the Pavlovich fight. Now he's going to call for it since he thinks it's going to be easy. I do think Gane would beat Pavlovich. I've always thought Gane could beat Pavlovich, but now it's even more confirmed. But I don't even think that that's the fight that they should do. I think that Gane, listen, dude, you beat, what's his name? Sergey Spivak? We're not giving him a title shot right now. Volkov is on a win streak. He's on a resurgence. He deserves a title fight upon his return. I do not want to see him fight Gane. We have to let ourselves be heard. We have to make ourselves be heard because I could see the UFC making that as a number one contenders fight when Gane doesn't deserve it. If Gane ducked the guy that Volkov just beat, there is no way he deserves a Volkov fight. Fuck that. So either way, beautiful performance from Volkov. I thought it was a great fight. Maybe I was a little bit upset while watching it just because, again, I wanted Pavlovich to get the KO and I wanted to be right, but I am a Volkov fan and I don't think it was a boring fight. I think he was high output. He was damaging Pavlovich. The third round, I mean, Pavlovich's face was looking like it was, a ketchup packet. It was horrible. And then I was kind of surprised to see Pavlovich get angry at Volkov because actually it was Pavlovich that signed that fight first, apparently. And he pushed Volkov out of the way, which kind of goes to show that maybe Pavlovich is a bit of a dum-dum because he's super pissed off at Volkov just because he beat him in a fight. I don't know. They seemed to have some beef at the weigh-ins yesterday, but I thought they were friends. I was kind of surprised to see them, I was kind of surprised to see Pavlovich get that angry, but you never know. He just got beat up. I'll cut him some slack. I think that we should usually cut people a little bit of slack now that I think of it after they get their head pounded. And, when people get KO'd, they'll get upset. But I remember Tony Ferguson getting mad at Justin Gaethje when Gaethje tried to shake his hand after he beat him up. You have to think, okay, well, first off, they lost. But also, they just got beat up, and they're probably not in the right place to make a good decision. It's a lot of brain damage that Pavlovich just took. But yeah, let's get on to the next one. Kelvin Gastelum, Big Tubby Kelvin Gastelum, is back. And we have to just call this out for what it is. This was probably the biggest weight bully moment in UFC history because Kelvin Gastelum missed weight by 15 pounds. And I know that people are going to say, cut him a break, man. He's a UFC legend. You got to win. Come on, hype him up. It was a great performance from Kelvin Gastelum. It was a fun fight. But this guy, and it wasn't that something horrible in his training camp happened. He didn't get an injury. He clearly didn't fight like it. He fought like he was, the freshest he's ever been. The least banged up he's ever been, Kelvin Gastelum was tonight. Very fast, slick on his feet, great combinations, great cardio. The guy's been having a great training camp. It's just that he hasn't been able to put the fork down. He's not been able to pull himself out of the driveway or the drive-in driveway at the McDonald's at 2 a.m. And he's not been able to shut down those cravings. And I feel bad for him because that's probably the only reason why he missed weight by 15 pounds. He genuinely just can't put the fucking fork down. But it's an issue because he didn't let Daniel Rodriguez know. Again, there's going to be people saying I'm coping. Yeah, I'm salty that I got my pick wrong because Kelvin Gastelum missed weight by 15 fucking pounds. Not 10, okay? We usually complain 5 pounds. 15 pounds! 15 pounds Kelvin Gastelum misses weight by. You got DC on the commentary saying, wow, aren't you so impressed by Kelvin Gastelum's cardio? Aren't you so impressed by his gas tank? Thank goodness Michael Bisping was there to fucking set the record straight. Yeah, I wonder why, Michael Bisping said. Because this guy didn't have to cut weight. This guy's got an extra 10,000 calories that he still hasn't burnt yet. He's burnt through the first 5K. In the first 2 rounds, still got an extra 10K calories from the extra ice cream that he ate. Kelvin Gastelum went for a run after the fight to burn off those extra calories. Right? D-Rod's freaking fighting off fumes. He's been preparing. He's been training. He's been cutting weight. He's been on that iceberg lettuce. And you got Kelvin Gastelum that just did a 10K calorie cheat day vlog the other day. Literally, this guy is out here on YouTube making fucking food vlogs. No wonder he's got a gas tank into the 3rd round. I've seen Kelvin more tired in the 2nd round of a regular ass fight. Good performance from Kelvin. Like, he looked solid, but man, he's a weight bully. He was twice as big as D-Rod. He was holding him down in the 3rd round because of it. Yeah, dude, he freaking turned up. He threw a bunch of great strikes. He had a great boxing performance. Really good from Kelvin Gastelum. Let's fucking keep this real. All right? This guy missed weight by 15 pounds. And he said, I'm sorry. You know what? I think Kelvin means well, and I honestly felt a little bit bad while he was doing his apology afterwards. Because again, I think that Kelvin's a good guy, and I think he means well, but man, 15 pounds you missed weight by, and you've got 10K extra calories to burn. You could see a calorie counter over the guy when he was fighting. He was freaking 10. He was 8K calories deep into the 2nd round. He still had 10K more to burn. As I said, Kelvin's going for a run right now. He still has energy. Goodness gracious, man. Big Tubby, dude. Big Tubby. Fuck. Daniel Rodriguez got screwed over so bad. And people were saying justice for Li Jing Liang after this. D-Rod fought Li Jing Liang 10 pounds overweight because he was booked to fight Kevin Holland at a catchweight. And it wasn't his decision to raise his own hands when there was a robbery with him and Li Jing Liang. That was the judges, not him. Kelvin Gastelum should have let the UFC know sooner, not the freaking week of the fight, that he wasn't going to make 180 pounds, dude. It was supposed to be at 170. This guy couldn't make 180. Close boxing exchanges. We saw moments of the welterweight skill, little flashes of glory from the welterweight skill, and you could see D-Rod was fighting with an extra bit of fury in him, an extra bit of fume. You could see the freaking steam coming out of his ears early on because he was pissed at Kelvin Gastelum missing weight. Gastelum just had too many calories in on him. Too many calories to give him energy to barrel through those big old combinations up against the fence. A little bit of a vintage Kelvin Gastelum. When Gastelum gets going, when Gastelum's in there, when he's like actually having a good fight, he's one of the most entertaining fighters to watch. It was a bit of a slugfest, but a high-level slugfest. And welterweight skill wasn't enough for Kelvin Gastelum's off-season diet. You know, like, dude, Kelvin Gastelum is so freaking undisciplined. My idea is that, okay, either you only fight at middleweight ever again, or you move to light heavyweight to fight blobs. If you want to be a blob, okay, we're going to move you up. All right? Because you should be fighting at welterweight. But it is what it is. I'm happy that Kelvin Gastelum had a good fight. He seems like a good dude. You know, but, man, I just think D-Rod got screwed over. I think it was a super close fight. And I think that if Kelvin Gastelum cuts weight, I think D-Rod could maybe get the better of him. You know? It is what it is. I got my pick wrong. It is what it is. Daniel Rodriguez fought tooth and nail. Lost, you know, by a hair. I guess the 3rd round, Kelvin took him down. And it was too much for him to deal with because he was getting tired. It was a war. It was a war. But, yeah. Amazing fight, though. Really entertaining. So let's get on to the next one. Shara Magomedov versus Anton Tricoli. This was a weird fight. Shara looked good on the feet, but he definitely looked to be a little bit reserved because I think that he was wary of the takedown, even though he was doing a really good job of stuffing the takedowns. Fair enough, there was a cage grab from him in the 2nd round, but let's not forget, because people forget, man, that there was a cage grab from Tricoli in the 1st. So I think they're even. Let's not give either guy more shit than the other. Either way, Shara was the better guy. But I was a little bit surprised to see Anton Tricoli lose the batteries in the 3rd round and just freeze up. Like, this guy wasn't really wowing me in the first 2 rounds, but he was throwing some punches. He was landing a couple of shots. He was clinching, trying to live in the clinch, trying to stall the fight, trying to do something. 3rd round, I don't think Tricoli threw a single strike. 3rd round, Tricoli just freezes and doesn't do anything. And, I mean, you got to give Shara credit for knocking him out. I mean, that's what you should do to a guy that's not doing anything. But it was very strange to just see him going from throwing a couple strikes, clinching, fighting like an NPC to fighting like a person that's controller just died, right? That's kind of what it seemed like. It's like the guy's controller died and no one was playing him. And Shara just brutally knocked him out. It was a real KO. Some people were saying it was rigged. It was a real KO. Looked a little bit weird, but I wouldn't say it was rigged. I don't think they would rig that fight. But it was very strange to watch. Either way, Shara, to me, should have been a little bit more dominant if he was going to, you know, have a really impressive performance. I mean, I think you should be a little bit more dominant against Nanton Tricoli. Either way, he still knocked him out and he still outpointed him. And now Bo Nickel is calling him out. I think that his takedown defense might be improving. I mean, it's not like he got taken down at any point in this fight. And if he did, he got right back up to his feet. So it looked pretty decent when he was able to get himself up against the fence. But I didn't like the hesitancy on the feet outside of the third round. He seemed a little bit too hesitant for my liking. And I think that Bo Nickel could beat him. I think Bo Nickel has obviously better wrestling than Tricoli. And if Bruno Silva can keep you down, then I think Bo Nickel could too. Either way, that's the sick fight. That's the fight that the people would want to see. I think that both of them are in a similar place. Let's make that matchup. Bo Nickel. Anton Tricoli, I'm sorry. Bo Nickel versus Shara Magomedov. Striker versus grappler on a big card, opening up a pay-per-view. That's what we got to do. Let's get on to the next one. Johnny Walker versus Volkan Oezdemir. Brutal KO to see Johnny Walker get put out like that. Oezdemir looked really confident in this one. And Walker was doing all right with his kicks, as he normally does, but Oezdemir was lighting up his legs too. He has got some pretty underrated kicks himself. And of course, with Johnny Walker, it's always the boxing that leads to his demise. He just doesn't have anything to offer with his hands. And he got caught in exchanges up against the fence where there's just really nothing he was doing to defend himself. He wasn't throwing anything back of any substance. He was just kind of sitting there up against the fence, putting his guard up, and we saw Oezdemir just confident to take it to him in the boxing range because he probably knew that Walker wasn't that good there. And he knocks him out brutally. I honestly forget the punch in which he knocked Walker out with, but it was a brutal combination up against the fence where he landed like every single one of his punches clean, with Walker going out cold with the last one. So this is like the 5th or 6th time Walker's been put away. I think it's the 4th time in the UFC. That just killed his light heavyweight career. I mean, that was a brutal one. That was a nastier KO than the Jamal Hill one. That was a nastier KO than the Corey Anderson one. And a nastier KO than the, what's his name? Magomed Ankalaev one. Damn, Walker's been KO'd a lot. So I feel bad for him, you know. He's a fan favorite. He's a fun fighter to watch, but he just doesn't have great boxing. And it's kind of crazy since he has a long reach and he's athletic and he hits hard and he's fast, but just isn't really improving. He's just kind of maintained his skill set over the years. And if someone's got good hands, they're always going to put him out. You've got to be slow, ploddy, and not have any boxing for Walker to be able to beat them. So, Oezdemir, I think he should be given a fight with someone like Jamal Hill. I'd like to see that. Maybe Oezdemir versus Jamal Hill. That'd be a fun fight. Because he's on a win streak. He's on a resurgence. He's having one of those light heavyweight, old head resurgences right now. And for Walker, this is the end of his career at light heavyweight, but I don't think this is the end of his career in general. I think one more KO in the next 1 or 2 fights for Walker, and that's it. But I'd like to see him move up to heavyweight. I know some people are going to say, what are you saying? Heavyweight? His chin's already bad. I mean, you don't want him to get hit by the big bombs up there. Well, let's remember, heavyweights are worse, and the weight cut is not helping Walker's chin. And actually, if he were to put some weight on, that actually might help him absorb a punch a little bit more. Either way, he shouldn't be cutting down at 205. He shouldn't be fighting people at 205 because eventually he's just not going to be good enough to take or to outbox people, and his chin is not going to help him. I say move up to heavyweight. Don't even fight a Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Don't even fight a Tai Tuivasa. Fuck that. There are some people that are in the UFC that are just in the UFC to fill a spot, that are only in the UFC to take up a place on an early prelims of an Apex card. Walker should demand fights like that. Fight Don'Tale Mayes. What's the UFC going to say? No, we don't want Don'Tale Mayes losing anytime soon. He's too valuable. Fuck that. Go to the UFC. Tell them, hey, I want a highlight reel. I'm done. I'm done with light heavyweight. All I want to do is I want to move up a weight class. Give me a layup. I just want a highlight reel. That's it. I'm sure the UFC would oblige. There's some old head fighters that the UFC doesn't really give a fuck about. Why not? Let's do it. Johnny Walker versus Dontel Mays. Johnny Walker versus Martin Budai. A Shamil the Blob Gazia victim. That's who you put Johnny Walker in there against. Johnny Walker versus Shamil. Put Johnny Walker in there with people outside of the rankings at heavyweight with hardly any power. And even if they do have power, they're heavyweights. It's the worst division in the UFC. Marcin Tybura is ranked at number 8. That's the answer. That's the one thing that you could do. And I think Johnny Walker is going to have a highlight reel in the back end of his career. He's going to have the most beautiful highlight reel you've ever seen. KOing people with flying knees and elbows and roundhouse jumping kicks, right? That's what you do for Johnny Walker. And yeah, eventually if he wins a bunch of fights, maybe you give him a Jairzinho Rosenstrike, and we'll see if he can win that. Maybe he can. Jairzinho's sort of plotty. Walker's used to fighting better fighters at light heavyweight. His chin's going to be better. Put him up against a blob, an unranked blob, regular NPC heavyweight at the Apex, or just put him on a prelims of a big pay-per-view card against Martin Budai or something, and just watch whatever unfolds unfold. That's what you do with Johnny Walker. His career's not totally over. Move him to heavyweight, but I feel bad for him because that's a lot of damage. But for Volkan, and I picked Volkan to win this fight because his boxing is very solid and he's got heavy hands. He's looking really good. He beat Bogdan. Now he's got a win over Johnny Walker. I think he should fight Jamal Hill. And if not Jamal Hill, then maybe Khalil Roundtree. Either way, let's get on to the next one. Nasrat Haqparast versus Jared Gordon. Amazing fight. Nasrat Haqparast was trying to fight for his freedom because they were confused as to whether or not it was good enough to give him his freedom after beating a no-chin Jamie Malarkey, because he had a good fight before that, a great war. But then there was thoughts of maybe the Jamie Malarkey fight is not good enough to be able to earn your freedom because actually that guy's no chin. But he earned it tonight. Did he win? I don't think so. But it was a good enough fight to where you can say, all right, he didn't fight like an NPC. Nasrat Haqparast has had 3 good fights in a row. Give him the credit. But this was a robbery. Jared Gordon, 100% of this fight was moving forward, biting down on the mouthpiece, and fighting like a madman. Nasrat Haqparast, 30% of this fight wasn't doing that. There were moments in the 3rd round, which is the round in question, because Nasrat won the first. He was consistently tagging Jared Gordon with beautiful left hands. The second was Jared Gordon's, where it looked like Nasrat was starting to fall off and Jared Gordon clearly outstruck him. The 3rd round is the round in question. Jared Gordon was dominating the first minute and a half, where for like a minute and a half, Nasrat Haqparast is legitimately hardly doing anything. He's on the back foot. He's not landing any strikes. He's not throwing any strikes. Jared Gordon is moving forward, consistently landing. Then there's like 3 minutes where they're both having a great exchange, but it's even. They're going to war. They're exchanging. They're landing tit for tat. The last minute, it's the same thing. It's even, but Nasrat has like one moment where he lands a beautiful shot on Jared Gordon, and it doesn't really rock him that much, but it was a very impactful shot. There's no argument to give this round to Nasrat Haqparast, and it's just brutal to see Jared Gordon get robbed again, because not only was he robbed against Paddy Pimblett, but he got brutally KO'd by a headbutt against Bobby Green, and now he's getting robbed. But this is a fight that no one's really going to care about him getting robbed in because it's not a big fight. So he's getting robbed on the prelims of a fight night, which is brutal. I mean, the guy's had a rough go in the UFC, but again, he easily won the 3rd round. It was a great fight. It was the fight of the night outside of Kelvin Gastelum and Rodriguez. I think both of these guys deserve a bonus, especially Jared Gordon and Nasrat Haqparast. But he won that fight. He won the first minute and a half of the 3rd round. He was in charge. He was landing the strikes, high output. Then they were even for the rest of the round. But because they were even for the rest of the round, whoever was winning the first minute and a half should win the fight. It is a robbery. So sucks that Jared Gordon got robbed. It does. But good performance from Nasrat Haqparast anyway. He earned his freedom tonight. As I said, he used to be an NPC on the feet back in the day. He's had 3 great fights in a row. They were just too unsure of whether to give him his freedom after the Jamie Malarkey KO, because that seemed to come a little bit easy. And with Jamie Malarkey's loss after loss after loss after that, they were thinking, wait a second, maybe we shouldn't rate that so highly. So we'll let him train outside of the Apex, but his performance on the night of the Saudi Arabia card will determine if he will go back. The Jets were going. The plane outside was revving up, waiting to bring Nasrat back to Vegas, but it took off in the later half of the third round when he still had heart. So really good performance. Really amazing fight. Let's get on to the next one. Muhammad Naimov versus Felipe Lima. Dustin Poirier from Brazil, all right? Swedish, Brazilian, Dustin Poirier in Felipe Lima, taking a fight on short notice, 2 days notice. From bantamweight, you could see he was the much smaller guy. Midway through the fight, before he got the submission, I was thinking, wait a second, he looks a lot smaller. Is this guy a bantamweight? My chat told me he was, because again, this was put together at the last second. He's not the bigger guy. Naimov has a lot of power. Naimov, you would think, has the grappling, because he was trying to out-grapple Nathaniel Wood. Lima not only outstrikes him a little bit via volume, and he's going to the body, and he's showcasing that beautiful bantamweight skill, ripping to the body and ripping upstairs. Beautiful, effortless combinations. And Naimov was doing his thing too. He was landing mule kicks. He was landing hard punches. Everything he throws is hard. Second round, Lima takes him down, takes his back, sinks in a deep rear naked choke, gets him out of there. And he looks exactly like Dustin Poirier. Yeah, and he has a very, maybe not the most similar style, but his boxing is crispy. He's got really good boxing. I say you do Felipe Lima versus... So, the question is, should Felipe Lima stay at 145 pounds? Because he looked so good. He took this on short notice, and he's not even like fat in this weight class. I mean, he took this on short notice. He could bulk up a little bit and become like a legit featherweight, and he's going to have the bantamweight skill. You just beat Muhammad Naimov. That's sort of close to the rankings, and Muhammad Naimov was coming off of a good win over Nathaniel Wood. Why not stay in this division? Because the thing is, the bantamweight division is a shark tank. It's going to be harder to become ranked. You sort of lose the benefit of beating a decent guy because now you're going to have to go back to the start and just fight your way up through the shark tank that is the bantamweight division. It's going to take forever. I think it's a decent move to stay in this weight class if I'm Felipe Lima. Maybe he moves down to bantamweight. Either way, amazing performance from Lima, and he does look a lot like a Swedish Brazilian version of Dustin Poirier. Let's get on to the next one. Rinat Fakhretdinov versus Nicholas Dalby. I picked Rinat Fakhretdinov to win this, but I said that Nicholas Dalby was going to win the third round. And I said that Nicholas Dalby was going to be coming on strong in the second. And I said that Rinat was going to steal one of the early rounds with a big knockdown. He knocked down Nicholas Dalby early, so he stole the first round. But Dalby, for, I would say, 70% of the first and second round, was winning the majority of the fight. Just putting tons of pressure on Rinat Fakhretdinov, lighting him up with kicks. And these are like fast kicks with a lot of sting on them too. And he's putting his chin on the firing line. He's taking risks. He's really trying to break Rinat. And he was doing so a little bit, at least getting to the gas tank of Rinat. As I said, Rinat really needed that big moment in the first round to even win this fight. Second round, Dalby's winning that round, right? Dalby's controlling the round until Rinat gets a takedown. But I gave that round to Dalby because of all the volume. He was just doing a whole lot more. It's 1-1 going into the third. I think that Dalby kind of wins the moral victory in the sense that he sort of beat up Rinat and sort of pressed the action and won more moments. But I don't think this is a robbery because Rinat, and he did make this boring in the third, but he did what he needed to do. He took down Nicholas Dalby. He wrapped up his legs. He made it impossible for Nicholas Dalby to run that pressure on him like he normally would do to a guy in the third round, which was really good. Good fight IQ from Rinat. He was slowing down. He needed the takedown. He needed the control, and that's exactly what he was able to do. It was a little bit frustrating to see him make it a little bit boring, and I was saying to my chat, imagine if this was Merab doing this to O'Malley, and Rinat's not landing any punches. They are 100% standing up that fight. Right? But because it's Rinat and a guy in Nicholas Dalby that no one really cares about, they didn't use the stand-up rule. I mean, come on, guys. There were moments where they could have stood that fight up, to be honest. And it was very close. But I just think that Rinat had too many moments where he was in control in the third round. And the striking exchanges, even though Dalby may have edged them out a little bit because he would get up to his feet and then he got taken back down, in between those moments, Rinat was still landing punches in those sequences. Like, he wasn't just getting lit up and then he would get the takedown. He was getting punched, but he was in there landing strikes of his own. So the strikes were close. One guy has 3 minutes in control time. The strikes are close. You got to give it to him. Rinat gets it done, but I mean, listen, I don't think it's a horrible look. Dalby has an insane gas tank. The guy's like 40 years old, but he's got EPO running through his veins, most likely. I mean, he's got a really entertaining style. I mean, I don't mean to diss him or anything, but that cardio is otherworldly. But I understand why Rinat got the victory. The Mole, Gufadov versus Kang. Gufadov gets the done. The Mole gets it done with a finish in the third round, I believe. No, he didn't get a finish in the third round, but he dropped Kang in the third with like a spinning back kick or something like that. Beautiful performance from Gufadov. Really good stuff. Gadzyusulov versus Ribeiro. I picked Gadzyusulov to win this fight, and he got it done by decision. Ribeiro did well in the first round. He edged out the first round. I expected Gadzyusulov to have an easier time getting in on the inside of Ribeiro, who doesn't have good pocket boxing. And Gadzyusulov kind of disappointed me a little bit with his lack of boxing in this fight. It just didn't look that good. Ribeiro did a really good job, fair enough, of keeping him at range with his body kicks. But still, I think his striking left a lot to be desired. He won this fight via control. Okay, second round, he out-controlled Ribeiro, got the better of him in the grappling, and the third round, he sort of beat Ribeiro up a little bit on the ground and had some moments on the feet. So Gadzyusulov got the win. Zhao versus Lee. I picked Zhao. I got this one wrong. Lee got the better of him in a gritty Marc-Andre Barriou style of fight. Overall on the card, I went 6-3. But there was a robbery on there as well. I picked Nasrat to win. He did win, but I think Jared Gordon won. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think in the comments. Until next time.